And welcome to the newest edition of the King's Corner. I am your host, Mr. Bond Chronicles, and I am so proud and blessed to have my brother with me. Eric, how we doing out there, man?
I'm doing good. First and foremost, want to give praise to the man upstairs. Anything could have happened, and I'm still here, still rocking. It's not always easy, but you know, I'm
It's
I'm
worth
still
it.
here, taking it day by day. That's all I can do.
I respect that. I respect that. Glad to hear it. I know we've been seeing and all the stuff you're working
Hmm.
on. So,
Yeah.
man, just hats off to you, man. Keep doing your thing.
Thank
Um,
you. Appreciate
we
it. And
we working over here. Got this
yes,
kid
sir.
about ready to get in this
I
game.
know. How's that process? Like, is it, because you have what, three?
Got three, man.
Three? Yeah.
Three.
So how is that process for you? Is this process more easier? Is it more difficult? What's the process of, getting prepared for this newborn?
Um, I would say it's probably easier because we've been through it. So
Yeah.
some things we're a little bit more, what I'm saying, involved with. I guess we're kind of used
Okay.
to. Fortunately, because it's a boy, we have a bunch of stuff. We got 2 years worth of stuff already.
Nice. Nice.
So we want. It's not a huge adjustment there. The
Mm-hmm.
the good and bad is a lot. A couple people we gave a bunch of stuff to a long time ago gave it back to us. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
we it's clothing stuff like that's not really a big deal. Blankets we got too much of that. So really the issue has been making sure that we can house, what I'm saying, everybody. So make sure everybody get enough space. So we've been figuring out if we want to sell our house. A house across the street just
Mm.
sold for like 150 times, 150% of what I would have paid for it before I paid
Oh.
for mine. So
Uh-huh.
it's kind of that catch where it's like I can sell my house way above what I paid for to make a lot of money, but
Mm-hmm.
everything else is so high. It's like it kind of
Right, right,
balances each other out. And I don't want to have a crazy mortgage because I like
right,
to travel. I like freedom. I don't want to
right,
just be in
right,
a big house just to be in a big house. I want to be able to
right.
live in it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah,
Do you think that
it's a
gender,
process.
not to cut you off, but do you think that gentrification has played a part in
Oh,
the house in the
100%.
housing market going
100%.
up?
So it's funny that you say that because when I moved into this house, I was married previously, and we thought about having kids, but when you start having kids, the
Hmm.
thought process changed. You start thinking about schooling, you start thinking about
Hmm.
environment, you start thinking about neighborhood as far as that you're gonna raise a kid in. For me, it was
Hmm.
like the location was good. I knew the economy in the area was gonna go up, so it was a no brainer. But what happened was we got elections coming up. So I was looking at the map, and because I grew up in this county, I know where kind of the affluent areas are. So when we were
Hmm.
looking at the way the map is divided, like they literally cut us out of the nicer neighborhood. And I mean, we live in a
Oh.
decent area, but
Uh
like I live
huh.
in a townhouse. So they
Uh huh.
literally cut us and added us into this other part of our county where it's lower income versus we're actually closer to the single family bigger homes, but they made that a different district. So gentrification and redlining is definitely prevalent. And then there's this other large part of the county that's like country where a lot of the money is, and they're a lot of the
Hmm.
ones that actually write the laws for the rest of the whole county.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was I had never really seen it until probably a couple months ago, but
Hmm.
then it made a lot more sense. The way stuff is zoned up, and then obviously that goes into schooling. So
Hmm.
fortunately, really thank God, we
Yeah.
got zoned off to go to the new school that had just got built, but we were supposed to go to one of these other schools that was like one of the worst in the counties. Um,
Oh, okay. So it was actually like a pro and a con because as I'm listening to, you tell your story, you were more closer to, as far as where you live, you were more closer to the more nicer area, but they cut you out. But as the positive side, a new school had just been bought, so therefore, or had been made, so therefore, your kids had the opportunity to go to a nicer school and
Yeah,
get a better education.
100%.
Okay, okay. Nice,
So
nice. That's a good way to think about it. You know, I think honestly, I think it's a little messed up that they cut y'all off. You know, if you're more closer
yeah,
to the nicer area, I mean, but you know, God works in mysterious ways, and it was a blessing in disguise for more greater things to happen. And now that your kids will have the more better opportunity to get to where they need to go because they're going to, the foundation has started as far as the education. So God
nah,
works in
100%.
mysterious ways.
He
Well,
does.
congratulations,
He look out for his kids for
congratulations,
sure.
congratulations to you and your wife. Shout out to Mrs. Bond Chronicles. Um,
For
and
sure.
when is like what month is the baby due?
So we're looking at December 30th as our due date, but
Oh,
I just
okay,
needed to
New
be in
Year.
2020. For
Okay.
tax reasons, my job is changing our leave policy. And so it's definitely beneficial for the baby to come this year. So we're
Mm.
going to push everything we can. I'm going to start getting her out. She's going to be walking every day to make sure she dropped this baby before the end of the year it's just
Yeah, yeah.
beneficial across the board.
Right,
But
right,
no,
right.
it's cool. But we shooting for right around Christmas.
Ooh, Christmas.
We'll have
Okay,
four of them things, man. You can come get one if you
okay.
want.
Oh man,
I know you.
you know
I know you
what?
love
If
the
I was
kids.
not building, hey, if I was not building a legacy, bro, I would come and get one. Like, to me, and I'm not trying to sound like racist or anything, but like little black children to me is just they precious. Like I know
Yeah,
like they be bad and stuff. Like all kids do, but just seeing a little,
yeah.
black girl or a little black boy, that's precious. And I can't wait to experience that. Hopefully, in my lifetime, hopefully, the way that I'm working and I have everything set up, I'll be, financially stable to, have a family. And I would love to have a family and have little beautiful black children. I think that's the ultimate goal. And I think it's, very sad and very disheartening to see, um, so many young kids nowadays just not getting the proper care and love and support that they should, um, and then that trauma it goes into adulthood and then we wonder why we got so many crazy or mentally disturbed, as I should say, people in the world because they haven't healed from their traumas as a kid. So, but I think that's beautiful. I salute you, for kids doing multiple podcasts, working. That definitely is not an easy task. So
Not at
salute.
all. But I love it, man. Like I do. I really enjoy it. I went to Vegas not too long ago, and I got a
Yeah,
chance to
how
kind
was
of get
that?
away. Vegas was dope, man. I didn't do a whole lot. I didn't move around too much, but we moved around, and it was a good time, man. It was a good relaxing. Me and my cousin was out there, just kicking it. We chopped it up.
You was
We was
eating good too.
Oh
I'm low
yeah,
key
yeah.
jealous.
Vegas cuisine is I ain't gonna say a second to none, but it's up there.
Uh-huh.
So now I definitely really enjoy eating out there. Did a lot of sports betting. Went to the casinos a little bit. Moved around. Went to this rage
You
room,
win
which was
something?
really dope. Got a chance to just. There was like you walk in this room and there was a printer. There was a bunch of bottles,
Mm,
and you just got 30 minutes to just let loose, man. And it was really therapeutic because I had been really getting to a place where I was really just
yeah,
real
yeah,
bound up tight. Because as a black man in this country,
yeah,
you don't
yeah,
have a lot of outlets. Like, and
yeah.
definitely not people. It's one thing to just have an outlet. Like I can go and I can scream on somebody, but that's not
Right, right,
beneficial. Or
right.
and a lot of times you can talk to a significant other, or you can talk to somebody, but they can't really relate because they ain't you. They're
Mm,
not walking in your shoes. They're not dealing with what you're dealing with. So
right,
to
right,
have
right.
somebody that you can go out there and is in a very similar life position as you, I thank God for
Mm,
that. and then to be able to just smash some stuff, man, like it
Yeah,
was a good
yeah.
workout. Probably the next
That
day, my
sounds
body
good.
was tight. My hand from holding the crowbar and the bat kind of hurt a little bit, but no, it was dope. It was great. It was a real good time.
Nice, nice. I'm just glad that you made it safely.
Yeah,
You know, because it's a lot going on in the world. You know, so many people, you know, both men and women are, it's not safe. It's not a safe space for, you know, black people. It's not a safe space for people of color. It's not a safe space for women in particular. Um, I know that in Philadelphia, a woman had gotten sexually assaulted on the train, and uh, I know that before we got on this show, we were, you know, discussing our topics and kind of going over the order. And you had a really interesting question that I actually want you to ask the audience
yeah,
as it relates to this topic. Um, Go ahead and pose your question.
yeah. So my question is, we saw what happened with George Floyd and the value of
Mm,
video. We seen what
mm,
Ahmaud Arbery and the value of video. Mike Brown, so many Sandra Bland, so many people. Even on the flip side to Ray Rice or Jay Z and
mm-hmm,
Beyonce and Solange. So video is crucial,
mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm,
in all of those situations where things were video, people just stood by and watched or recorded. And so what happened recently was in, like you were saying in Philly, was it was a subway. I believe it was around like in the daytime. It wasn't super late at night. It wasn't isolated. It wasn't in the back of some car. People were around while a woman, and the story's kind of gone back and forth, but by all accounts, the woman was sexually assaulted by a man. He was messing with her. She was trying to get
mm-hmm,
away. And instead of calling 911, instead of anybody intervening,
mm-hmm,
they decided to record. So the question is, when you see something like that go down, and I grew up in the stop snitching era, um,
mm-hmm,
and hood policies is I ain't see nothing, especially when it comes to talking to police. But are there
mm-hmm,
certain things where that goes out the window? And so in this
mm-hmm.
case, my question now kind of turn it back to you is, should people intervene in situations like that, or is simply recording good enough?
That's a really good question that you impose out there. Um, this is hard. So I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a minute. Like you said, you know, the whole style snitching. Like I remember, like when Cameron had gotten shot and he refused to go to the police because he didn't want to, you know, be labeled as a snitch. You know, I get that. I understand that. I think that snitching is necessary depending on what the scenario is, and I think that not snitching is necessary depending on the scenarios. I think in this particular case, I mean, just think about it. You know, for everybody that's out there, you know, watching this or will watch this, we all got a wife or a girlfriend, you know, mother of a child, you know, mother of your child, um, daughter, wife, or well, I said wife, but daughter, niece, sister, auntie. Just think about if that was one of your family members. Would you just sit back and just watch, or would you do something about it? And I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna do something about it. I think that we live in a society where, you know, well, I don't know her or I don't know that person, so I'm not gonna get involved. But that's where the community comes in. That's where the unity comes in. And if you see something that's just wrong, that you know that somebody ain't got no business doing, then you should try to step up. You know, I understand that some people are scared. They don't want to get stabbed or shot or whatever the case may be. So I get that aspect of, you know, that part of not wanting to intervene. But at the same token, you know, recording, I mean, what is that going to do? If it ends up going to court, you know, it could do something, it may not. I felt like maybe somebody calling the police or 911 or, some type of sex hotline or, for sexual assault. I think that would have been a little bit more beneficial than just sitting there and watching. And to be honest, you know, why would you want to watch somebody getting sexually assaulted or getting raped? Like I understand like people got their fetishes and stuff like that, but that's not something that I would want to just sit back and watch. That's disturbing to me as a grown adult man, and on top of that, she was a black woman. I can't just stand back and let a black woman get abused and sexually assaulted like that. Like I ain't that tall and I ain't that big, but just the kind of person that I am, I'm gonna jump in. Like if I can't take, however many of y'all down, I'm taking at least one of y'all down with me. Like I ain't Mike Tyson, but young Jeezy said about Jay-Z, he got hands, and that's what I will do. I just can't sit back and allow a black woman to get mistreated like that, in my personal opinion. But I get both sides of the scenario. But I just felt like recording. I felt like some action would have been a little bit more better and a little bit more appropriate.
So, so I'm glad you took that approach. And like you said, I completely understand both sides. And like you said, framing it, if that was my wife, if that was my daughter, and I was there, like there's no question, I'm
Absolutely
involved.
not. That part.
And a lot of times it takes one person. If one person get in,
Right.
it'll encourage other people to get
Everybody
in.
getting in. Right.
And I kind of harken back to I watched the 9/11 War on Terror documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I've always thought about is there was, I think, 5 planes and 3 of them hit towers. I think it was 4 planes. No, it was 5 planes. 4 of them hit 3 of them hit towers. 1 hit the Pentagon. 1 they banded together and were able to, bring the plane down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the thing is it would have took one person. My concern and where I'm at in my life, and we just talked about it to start this podcast, is I got 3 kids, I got a wife, and I got 1 on the way.
Right.
Am
Right.
I willing to
Right.
potentially lose my life so that now my kids grow up without a dad? Because I'm helping some woman I don't know, getting involved in a situation I know nothing about. And so for me, the answer at this point in my life is now no. And so I think, and I referenced Ahmaud Arbery and, Mike Brown and George Floyd. I think video can go a long way in today's society. Like without video, Ray Rice is still playing in the NFL probably. Without video, Colin Kaepernick might still be playing in the NFL. If it wasn't on video and people seeing him kneel, he might still be in the NFL. So I just think video has played a huge role in society and in our lives in solving crimes. I feel like that's a happy medium. The biggest criticism I would have is everybody don't need to be recording. Somebody can call 911. Somebody can call an authority. And I would even say potentially if one person was able to step in, then I might follow. But
Right.
I just got too much to lose to try and save somebody. I'm not a hero for other people at this point in my life.
Absolutely.
I'm a hero and responsible to my family. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And it would suck, like I said, if that was my wife there. But I would have to understand that if there's other people around, that they got to get home to their families too. And in the world today, and we'll talk about a couple other stories, people crazy. Like people is just absolutely nuts. I know you out there in the Bay and you've been sending me, y'all have talked about a number of things. You just don't know who you walking up on, what they've been going through that day. And
right.
I can't do it.
No, I totally understand that. I totally get that perspective that you just gave and broke down. It's just I can't just let somebody get like I don't want to see that. You know, I don't want to see that. And I just feel like I guess it just depends on that moment, that heat of the moment. You know, it depends on that kind of day that I'm having personally. Like if I'm already having a fucked up day as it is, somebody gonna catch the smoke. That's just what it is. You know, if I'm, you know, maybe in a nicer mood, you know, I might dip into a corner and try to call 911 or call the police or whatever the case may be. You know, like you said, it's hard, and you know, a lot of people are crazy. A lot of people are mentally disturbed, I should say. A lot of people have anger issues. People, like you said, you just don't know who you're dealing with, and somebody go 51, 52 on you, that can be potentially, you know, your life or whatever the case may be. I work in security, so you know, there's been a lot of things that have scaled back that I can do. Um, I can't, you know, people think that I'm just supposed to be like, you know, a police officer, but I'm not. You know, I can only do so much, and then somebody else got to get involved, or sometimes people don't ever get involved. They just walk, you know. So, but I just think it's unfortunate. I just think that it's unfortunate as it is for women. I think it's unfortunate for Black women that these type of scenarios are still going on. You know, I think that you said on a previous episode that the world just doesn't respect women. And I think that's a big part of it. And I think that when you add class and you add, um, you know, all these different factors, so many different layers, you know, it's like, why do we hate women so much to the point where we're literally killing them, we're raping them in broad daylight? If it wasn't for women, men wouldn't be here.
That's
You
the
know,
truth.
Mother Africa is the first mother on the earth. So everything started from Mother Africa. But you know, if we want to get technical, you know, yeah, fathers can produce sperm, but without that pushing and you know, 72 hours in labor, no, men wouldn't be here. So we got to start respecting women. Like Pac said, we got to, you know, we all came from a woman. So you know, why disrespect women? You know,
Yeah.
but I just think that we don't respect ourselves, so we take it out on other people. Once you learn to love and respect yourself, you don't do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hope that that woman is getting some type of counseling. I hope that woman is getting some type of, you know, mental health help, and for all the women and men, you know, because it happens to men too, you know, for all the
Facts.
people that's been sexually assaulted and molested and raped, I please, you know, I encourage all of you guys to get some type of mental help, some type of counseling. You know, don't hold that in and just know that it's not your fault. It's not your fault that that happened to you. You know, unfortunately, things happen, and you know, it's sad, but it happens. But it's not your fault, and I encourage each and every one that's been affected by that to get some help. And I hope that woman that was sexually assaulted gets some help. And I hope that the bastard that did it gets, you know, a long, lengthy sentence because that was out of line and that was out of pocket.
So that's the other part to this for me that is tough. And I don't think this part gets maybe talked about enough, but for me, it's something that I would have to process is what he did by all accounts, from what we know is reported, was wrong. 100%. But we've also seen calling the police can end up a death sentence for said individual.
That's that's true.
So, like,
That's very
we've
true.
had so many cases where somebody was dead wrong. We saw Richard Sherman was tripping one night. I don't know if you've seen that video. Like, we've
Hmm.
seen video of people doing wrong, and
Yeah.
people call the police thinking that they're going to help, they're going to de-escalate
Hmm.
the situation,
Hmm.
and then that person ends up dead.
That's true.
And
That's
and
very true.
so that to me also becomes the flip side to I'm not gonna be the hero. I'm not paid to be the hero. I didn't sign up to be the hero.
Right,
But
right,
the people that we pay to be the heroes
right, right.
become the murderers. They become the judge,
That's
jury, and
true.
the executioner. And so when you look at the Jamarion Robinson situation,
Hmm.
if they get the call and they say they look up his record, they say, you know what, he had a couple incidents where we had to be called out. And so they come with this certain, they're on guard, they're trigger finger, they're ready to shoot first and ask questions later. But when someone's having a break, and they said that he had schizophrenia, I believe, like
That's a
they're not
beast.
they're not trained on how to handle that.
Right, right,
So
right.
now this person, when you get pulled over, when you call the police and they pull this person's record, they come with a certain demeanor. And police, in my experience, they carry themselves a certain way.
Yeah,
They got their chest poked out. They come with this air, with this authoritative. They want to talk down and belittle people. And again, that's my experience. I'm sure there's a
yeah,
bunch of
yeah.
people that have had great experiences with cops. My experience with cops, they're jerks. 95% of the time I've dealt with cops, they were jerks. And so, kind of pivoting away from her situation to the Jamarion Robinson situation, I don't know how to fix the problem, but we have a problem. And I'll kind of get, what I'm saying, let you go as well, because I know this is something you were passionate about.
Hmm.
But from all accounts, there is absolute. I own a couple guns. At most, a handgun holds 15 rounds.
Hmm.
By all reports, he was shot 76 times.
Hmm.
76 times.
Hmm.
Allegedly, he fired one shot and they shot this man 76 times.
Hmm.
So, and we've seen Atlanta when the George Floyd stuff was going on. We've seen police across the country. Y'all got a lot of them out there. DC's been
Hmm.
in the news. We've had some even closer to me. The NYPD's the absolute worst.
Hmm.
Um, I just don't know what
And
we
shit,
do.
and
And
so is the Vallejo Police Department too. The Bay Area,
yeah,
Vallejo, Richmond, all of them. Same. Put them all in that category.
so when you say protect our women, you rolling the dice on, yeah, she might get protected, but God forbid it was a black man assaulting her. Now he's dead.
That's true.
And now he doesn't go home to his family. And yes, I'm not excusing sexual assault. I'm not excusing assault and battery. I'm not excusing any of that. But I personally don't think that that's a reason to die.
Right, right, right.
So what do? Do you call the police
That's
and
true.
pray and hope? Like we've had situations where people got assaulted, they called the police and they come and
Hmm.
they end up dead. Like
That's
I
true.
got beat up, somebody was trying to rob me and you kill me.
Right, right.
So it's like, what do you do?
That's true. And bringing up that piece that you just brought in about potentially calling the police. I remember this was like way before Instagram. I started you know reading and getting in tune with a lot of the case that was going on. Trayvon Martin, Travis Carter, Michael Brown, all of them. Just start doing my research and wanting to be a voice for the young people to speak out against injustices, especially regarding black and brown men. And there was this particular case in Detroit. His name was Milton Hall, and he had a mental health crisis. I'm not really quite sure if it was bipolar, schizophrenia, um, etc. But he was having a breakdown. I guess him and he was in 7-Eleven. This happened about like 2012, 2000, about 2014, 2013, 2014. And he was in the 7-Eleven store, and I guess he was arguing with the 7-Eleven clerk, and Milton Hall called the police to see if they can defuse the situation. The police come, and he has a plastic fork in his hand. And they told him several times, sir, fork or whatever the case may be. And he's already agitated. He has a mental health problem. So that those two combined, he's not really caring or listening to what anybody is saying at this point. So he refused to drop down the knife. And do you know how many times they shot that man? They shot that man 47 times. And he only had a plastic fork in his hand. And it's unfortunate stuff like this. Jamarion Robinson. But from what I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently he had a warrant and he had a gun in his hand. But police make up stuff all the time to make themselves look good. But regardless
Right.
if
So
that was the
really,
case or not, I think.
so and
Go
kind of to
ahead.
that point, sorry, and I don't want to interrupt you, but when I was reading the article, for the officers that were indicted, it was felony murder, aggravated assault, burglary,
Hmm.
making false statements, and violation of oath. So they did say that he pointed a gun and that he shot at
Hmm.
them, but in their indictment, they did say that they were indicted for making false statements.
So they
So I
lied
don't know.
basically.
Right. And of course, then there was no mandate for body cameras, so the body cameras were not on. So I just, for our audience, I did want to put that out there,
Yeah.
that is part of the indictment. That what we may have thought had happened, we don't really know because the fact that they're indicted for false statements leads me to believe there's enough paper trail for them to try and convict them on that. Which for them to try and convict cops on that, it's something there. But go ahead, my bad.
Right. Right. No. And that says a lot. If that's a part of your charges that you're getting charged with, that says a lot to be indicted on false statements. Because what part did you lie on, or did you lie
Oh,
about all of it?
that's yep.
And like you said, there's no mandate on body camera, so we don't know what was said. We don't know what was exchanged. We don't know if he probably didn't even have a gun. He probably had some type of, I don't know, knife or something, like a plastic knife or something. Like he might have not even had a gun because they tried to do the same thing for Willie McCoy, who was shot, I think about 55 times. That's what it was. 55 times in 3.5 seconds. And they claimed that he had a gun when they were doing like a wellness check because he had passed out at a Taco Bell restaurant in the drive-through, and somebody, I guess they tried to wake him up. He wasn't waking up, so they called the police, or they called 911 actually to get a wellness check, and the police showed up instead, and they were banging on the windows and cursing and yelling, and I think he may have like raised his hand up a little bit, and they just went in, and they claimed to
Yeah.
say that they found a gun in the car, but when he was deceased and they checked the car, there was no gun. So
Yeah.
that says a lot if they are charged with and indicted with false statements. And like you said, police lie all the time to make themselves. If I'm about to face 25 years in jail and I know I did some shady stuff, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that I look like an angel. And that's what the police typically do. They make themselves to look like an angel because they feel like they're part of the law. They're here to protect and serve. So they feel like, they can kind of do whatever they want. And so when they get caught and they get charged, a lot of them don't even think they're going to get caught. But some of them get caught, get charged, and sometimes they get away, and sometimes they don't. With the George Floyd situation, thank God it was a victory. It wasn't a lot of time, but it was a victory with that particular case. I know that Eric Garner, there's been some resurface on that with his case, and then with Jamarion Robinson, um, them being indicted for the stuff that they were charged with. So, but police do lie all the time. Like I remember one time, and I don't want to keep going on and on, but I was coming home from Richmond, Target, which is in the Bay Area where I was staying at the time, and actually I was still a part of my internship, so I had came from the radio station, and I went to Target to get a few things, and I was on my way home. So I noticed that there was a bunch of police cars on the opposite street on the other block. So, say for instance, I'm on 44th. There was a whole bunch of cops on 43rd. So I'm like, okay, well, let me go on this block to kind of just, I don't want to, I'm tired. I'm trying to go home. I ain't trying to get into nothing. So as I'm walking, it was police on the other corner. So I'm like, okay. So like I keep walking, and then the police officer, he stops me. He was like, I need you to sit down and show me your ID. And I was like, for what? And he was like, you fit the description of somebody that we're looking for. Now, mind you, it's 8 o'clock at night. I got a green sweatsuit, jumpsuit, and I got a high top fade. And I'm like, y'all trying to find somebody at 8 o'clock at night? So I'm like, okay. At first, I thought he was joking. So I'm like, I'm laughing. I'm like, you can't be serious. But he was dead ass serious. So I was like, all right. So I showed him my ID. And I sat down on the curb, and then they did background check, and it wasn't me, of course. And he's like, "Yeah, man, like I thought that you were the one," and like laughed. And I'm like, "You knew that I was not the dude. Like, what person in their right mind, if you're looking for somebody that's committed a crime, what right person and a sane person would walk up to you knowing that they did the crime?" Like that's like you're as a criminal, you're trying to hide or get away from the police. Like why would I just be so openly just walking towards you, knowing that I committed a crime? Like that to me didn't make any sense. And then like I was trying to look for the person that I was looking for, and for what I thought is maybe who they looking for looked nothing like me. So I just thought that was just a whole bunch of lies, just to like you said, puff up their chest and just think they better and better than everybody.
Yeah, I mean it's a power trip. I've had a couple situations. I remember one where, man, you know what I'm saying, growing up, I was in, you know what I'm saying, I was outside. We was doing what we do, and I was in my boy car, and we got to this intersection. And so at
Mm-hmm.
this particular intersection, you're leaving like a high crime area, and if you go through
Mm-hmm.
the intersection, it's like a project, so to speak. And I live in
Oh,
the
okay.
suburbs, so it ain't like hood, but it ain't good in there either. It's not somewhere you should be walking around at night, where you
Mm-hmm.
could find yourself in a situation. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was in the daytime, broad daylight. And so we get to this. It's a four-way stop, and it's a stop sign. So we get to the stop sign, and to the right of us, a car pulls up. So it's stuff in the car. So we
Mm-hmm.
naturally overcompensate. The driver is super calm, super chill, but we wait a little bit, then we make the turn. As we make the turn, I look in the rearview mirror because that's what you do when you're black. And sure enough, cop busts a U. So we were on our way to drop somebody off, and
Mm-hmm.
we pull into a neighborhood. And so the neighborhood is shaped like a U. So it's like you
Mm-hmm.
pull in, and then you go up, and you can go out this way. So we take the first right and pull in, and as we're pulling up to go towards where the house was, which was on the left, the cop car comes screaming around the corner in front of us and like blocks
Mm-hmm.
our way.
How many
So we're
was it
like,
in the car?
it was just one dude. Fortunately
Oh,
enough,
okay.
um,
Kind of
but he
high.
get out, he walk up to the car, he talking this, that, and the other, going back and forth. And so we like, what is this about? So my one
Right.
boy,
Right.
he jump out the car and hurry up and go inside. But we was actually on our way to the court, so I wasn't about to get off because that wasn't my stop. But he like, y'all rolled to the stop sign, and so I'm like, bruh, we know who we are. We know what we doing. We saw
Right.
you. You really
Right.
think we dumb enough to roll through a stop sign?
Right. Right.
And so then it just became this long exchange back and forth. And then he talking about, I'm gonna call the dogs and just a whole bunch of extra. And this is a high traffic area, and just going back and forth. He want everybody's IDs. Like it was just a hassle
Mm-hmm.
and a half for no reason.
Right. Right.
Um, so yeah, man, like I said, I've been in a bunch of other situations that cops lie. Like it's what they do. We see it on TV all the time in interrogations. Like It's
Mm-hmm.
sad that that's the reality that we face. But these
Mm-hmm.
people are people,
Right.
and they go through stuff, and they can have a bad day. The part about them having a bad day is they have a gun. And when you have a
Right.
gun and you having a bad day, that is not a good mix.
Right.
And then if you got racist tendencies, which a lot of them do, or you have biases towards groups of people that everybody has, that is a terrible mix of a situation.
It's
And
deadly.
you might show up and have somebody that's somewhat combative. Because when the cops
Mm-hmm.
ask me questions, as soon as I see the police and they approach me, my demeanor changes.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I don't want to be bothered with y'all. I ain't
Right.
did nothing wrong. Leave me
Right.
alone. Don't talk to me. So yes, my
Right.
demeanor, I am respectful.
Right. Right.
But you start questioning me and your tone start acting a certain way, I respond a certain way. And so you and your ego, you gotta feel like you gotta assert your authority. And it's bad. And we
Right.
saw what happened with George Floyd. We've seen it happen time and time again where they just bully people and slam people and treat people like property and not even like people. People ain't with that.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so that's been a lot of my issue with in situations I've been in where I hesitate. Where it's like
Mm-hmm.
I might be in danger, but do I really want to risk calling the police because that could be bad for everybody? And it
But
sucks
then
that
it leads.
that's where we at.
Then it leads to, well, should we defund the police? I was having a conversation earlier with one of my coworkers, and I don't think that we should completely defund the police, but I do think that, see, this is another hard one. Our system is just messed up, and until we get a better system, especially in the judicial system, nothing's not gonna really change. So I don't know. I mean, should we just run ourselves without any type of order? I mean, we it seemed like we're already doing it. They do stuff when they feel like it, and then when it's something serious happens, it's like somebody gonna come up dead, somebody gonna come up brutalized, body slam, like. But I just don't feel like defunding the police for me. I just don't feel like that is the right complete move. But until our system gets better, I don't think that police, the policing is gonna get better. I think that that's what they like and that's what they want. It's clear as black and white on the stuff that's happened. All the way going back to Emmett Till. And that had nothing to really do with police. That was just a white racist supremacist type group that was based on a lie that a white woman told, and it ended his life.
Yeah.
And then you skim all through the years. Even before Emmett Till. Well, I guess they about around the same time, but the civil rights movement. How they was putting their dogs on people for peacefully marching, not going on the bus, turning on the the
Moses.
hot the yeah the hoses. Just doing all of that, and then you kind of skim going to the 80s. You got the Central Five part, the Central Five dudes that was pretty much terrorized. My goodness, like that right there is just terrible. They were terrorized and they were bullied and pretty much convicted based off of a lie, based off of what a white woman
100%.
said. And then you got the Rodney King case that was a big thing, and it just you see it time after time after time, and it's progressively gotten worse over the years, and y'all still don't want to fix this. So that's telling me that y'all are okay with this, and you guys don't want to change it. So I don't feel like the policing is
100%.
going to get any better, to be quite frankly honest. And we have to understand that the reason why the police was here in the first place is because they wanted to separate the slaves from the slave masters, because the slaves was outgrowing the slave masters. So
Yep.
if we're always going to be on that tip, then I don't think anything is going to get better. And it's sad because you're stuck in a hard spot, in a soft place, and you don't know what to really do.
I mean,
What
I
do you
think
do?
there's for me. I think you touched on a couple points that I want to touch on myself, and I think the first thing with defunding is defunding and bankrupting isn't the same thing.
Hmm.
So for me, like I've done a decent amount of research, not a ton, but like I did some research. And I think it was the NYPD. Their annual budget was like $6 billion, like
Mm.
$6 billion. And so I've
Right.
done, I've watched some documentaries on like the crack epidemic, and
Hmm.
what that led to was over policing. And good old
Right.
President Joe Biden and this crime bill,
Mm.
and the school to prison pipeline for Black people, it's all intermingled. So when you say what's going on and why won't they change it, they're incentivized not to change it. Like they've
Right.
gotten rich off of this system.
Right.
Um, and so when it comes to defunding, it's not necessarily bankrupting police, or the way it's supposed to be done isn't to bankrupt police. But when you have that 911 call and someone's having a psychological break or a mental break, if you allocate, say, 1 billion of the 6 billion to mental health workers, then when they get that call, they can send the mental health person out instead of a cop who
The
has no
police.
idea what he's doing in that situation. So it's more
Exactly.
so reallocating resources to other departments, because here's the big thing about police that nobody talks about. Typically, police don't stop crime. The crime has already
Right.
happened by the time somebody calls the
They get
police.
there. That's true.
So they're not preventing anything. And most times somebody's in a fight, they get a call. Somebody got shot, they get a call. Shots were fired, they get a call. I come home and my front door's kicked in, they get a call.
Hmm.
The woman on the train, she's already been assaulted, they get a call.
Right. Right.
So the reality
And a
of
lot of
police
times
are
they get, not to cut you off, and a lot of times they take hella long to get to the crime scene or to get to the.
100%.
It's not like they come in like 2 seconds. Like,
You're right.
well, depending on the race, but
Right. I was
a
gonna get
lot
to
of
that. Okay.
a lot of the times they don't even show up. Like, there's been so many times I've called the police at my job, and by the time they didn't stole, I don't know, $100, $2, $500 worth of stuff, and they come like 20 minutes later. I'm like, why come in the first place?
Yeah. You could have just stayed where you was at by now.
And I didn't have to call you. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
But I think that's the other piece to it. And you talked about skin color. Like for me, that plays a big role. If it's a predominantly Black area, kind of how I feel about sports, where it's predominantly Black athletes, why
Mhm.
are the owners white?
All right.
If it's a predominantly Black area, why is it being policed by predominantly white people who don't
Right.
live in that
Right.
community, who don't
Right.
walk or aren't a part of that environment?
Right.
Like policing at its best are where police serve the people in the community they serve. So how you serve our community if you're never in our community? How are
That's
you
true.
protecting us if you only here when you come
The,
to judge us based on your premonitions of what happened? So I
right.
think the for me, even in the funding of police, there needs to be more diversity programs. And it's not to say that all
Hmm.
Black cops, all minority cops are clean
Yes.
cut. I'm not saying that by any
Yes.
stretch. But
Yes.
I've seen what the white ones is doing,
Right.
and it ain't working. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. I support defunding to a certain extent. I don't think police that are policing local communities need assault rifles and bulletproof trucks and these crazy SWAT joints that they be having. I know in Atlanta they just took out a bunch of like green space that they're going to make for a policing training facility against the will of the people. Like we don't need the military policing our communities.
Right. Right.
We
Right.
need community advocates that when they show up, do their job. But again, they're not most police. I forget the statistic. I think it was like less than 5% of crimes prevented by police. Like you call the
Wow.
police after something's
So like,
already
what do we
happened.
pay you for? It's like, what do we pay
That's a
you
great
for?
question. That is a great question. Anytime I've ever heard the police call, the incident was over. They come and take a statement.
Right, right.
They might they might go and try and find the person, but that's detective work at that point. That ain't even really
And
police work.
right. And a lot of them don't
So
even do that.
and they don't do that. And to your point about color, if
Right.
that
Oh
happened in the
yeah.
hood or a low income community, they
Yeah.
don't care.
Right.
They're not concerned and they're not incentivized to help solve the crime.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And going back to saying that we need more diversity, I think absolutely. I think the first step is finding people who actually enjoy doing what they do and
Right.
having great and open-minded people. And I know that sometimes working in the police field, there are some really good people in the police field, but I think, and I heard this as well, they get penalized for trying to do the right thing, especially
I heard
amongst
that
the
too.
ones who are doing the dirty work. And I think that's very unfortunate because if the roles was reversed, if we had, predominantly good cops and we only had a few that was into that dirty work, then I think that the outcome of so many situations would be so much different. When you're projecting this negative energy and this bitter energy, you really going to expect people to be happy and feel safe and feel comfortable. People are
Not a
not going to
chance.
respond well to that. You have to be kind. Now, I'm not saying be no pushover or bend over backwards, but you have to. As I say this a lot as far as management, I think that it's the same thing for police. You have to bend a little. You have
Right.
to understand people's situations. Right now, fast forwarding to 2021, almost going to 2022, we're in the middle of a pandemic. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have lost their homes. A lot of people have had to go to the food bank because they can't afford food. A lot of people have gotten sick. People have died. People's family members have died. Mental health is such a big thing now. All of these, different. It's so much going on in the world. You just have to have a little understanding and have a little bit of patience on why some people or a certain community of people may be feeling a certain type of way. You just have to have some type of understanding, and if you have a little bit of understanding and a little bit of empathy, then I think that alone, not just forget about the defunding the police and giving them more diversity training and all of these great different things. That alone, if that attitude changed alone, I think the world would be such a better place to be in a safe space. I personally believe that it would be such a better place. And we wouldn't have to, maybe we wouldn't even have hardly no crime. Maybe we wouldn't have to deal with hardly no crime if things were a little bit more different. But who knows?
Yeah. And speaking of things being different, um, you were mentioning something that happened in school, and
Hmm.
like I went into school in, like I said, a suburban community, and to a certain extent, when I was younger, I didn't I didn't recognize the biases like I do today. Like looking back
Hmm.
on when I was in school, I realized
We
I
let
went
a
to
lot of
school
shit
with some,
slide.
yeah, like there was a bunch of stuff that I didn't realize was going on that was going on, and it bothered me a little bit. But there's some things that you just know you shouldn't do.
Hmm.
And so you was telling me before we came on about a story
Hmm.
where in California, which is kind of weird, or maybe this is a big thing out there, but kind of about the KK. Somebody went to school in the KKK outfit or something like that. If you could tell the
Yeah,
people kind of what went on, and then what I'm saying, we can talk a little bit about it before we wrap up. But
yeah,
some stuff you
yeah,
just know should
absolutely.
be wrong, and people do it anyway.
Right, right, absolutely, absolutely. So with the power of video and photo, somebody I guess took a snap of this dude or the student, male student, who was dressed up as a KKK member, and I don't know, because to me, I feel like a lot of people's common sense has gone down. I don't know if it's pandemic related or not, but a lot of people, I, you know, including faculty, staff, they thought that he was dressed up as a ghost because I guess the top part of his head was either covered or the pointing part of the outfit wasn't showing at that point. And I think that he only did it around his friends who his family has claimed that they're people of color, but who knows? Could have been a group of white students with one black student, whatever the case may be. But I guess he did it as a dare, and his friends didn't see nothing wrong with it. But I don't know who his parents is, and I don't know what they taught him. But I mean that's just unacceptable. And I think that as long as it went on, I don't know if I'm more disappointed with the student or if I'm more disappointed with the staff that didn't catch it. Because there's a big difference between a ghost and a white supremacist type group. And this happened in Pittsburgh Unified School District, which is actually not that far from where I live, which is in the Bay Area. Um, but I'm not really surprised about Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh has been known to have racist moments. I think that it's a little shocking now because, Pittsburgh now is starting to become a predominantly black area. So I'm a little surprised about that. But it's 2021. I don't expect anything from anybody. So, but I just thought that somebody should have caught that, or it should have been like, wait, is that what I think? Like, I just don't like if I was there and I had a seen that, my instinct would have been like, yo, some about that fit just ain't right. They did the Pittsburgh Unified School District. They did issue out an apology or more of a letter. It says a disturbing and unacceptable incident occurred at the high school where students wore a KKK costume yesterday, hiding the top part of the costume and wearing it for moments at a time until staff discovered it after fourth period and confiscated it. Everyone assumed he was a ghost at first, and then people found out he was a KKK member as a joke. Apparently, his friends dared him to do it because his friends are of our color. They thought it was okay, but it's still not okay.
So you said the people that dared him was black.
It don't say that they were black. They just said that they were of color. So, um,
I mean, if,
if they were, if the scenario is, then that's even more disappointing because as black people in America, our history never really goes away. They're trying to make it fade away, but it's not going away. You're gonna hear, but I don't know what the curriculum is in schools nowadays. I know that when I was growing up, I saw different movies that reflected the civil rights movement, race, etc., etc. So I'm if they are black, that's even more disappointing because it's like you should know what that represents and you should know what that's about, or somebody in your family should have taught you what it was about, and for you to think that that would be okay or that would be funny, that's not. That's even more disturbing if that is the case.
right. So a couple things to that. I was reading, and it looks like I saw in an article. It says last week, school officials at a private Catholic school in East Bay said two students were being disciplined after reenacting the murder of George Floyd last week. Um,
Wow.
so my thought on it is one. I was looking when you was talking, and that ain't nobody think that was no ghost costume. Like if you look it up,
Right. That part.
like these are, I think it was at a high school.
High
If you
school.
got the high school, you know what a KKK outfit look like. It's been on our TV throughout the last administration and throughout our history in this country. You know what that is. They said he made it through 4 periods. It's hard for me to believe, and I don't know the area, but when I was, when I was in school 33, 16 years ago, we had cameras in school. So what you're telling me is nobody on any security camera anywhere saw this going on.
Right.
Nobody walked by in any of these classes and saw this going on. Like, that's hard for
Right.
me to believe.
I'm with you on that.
And sometimes I let myself go here in America. I'm not going to say I wish we could see, but I am very curious to see what would happen in a society where roles were reversed. Imagine black people being 50, 60% of the population and treating white people like white people treat black people. There's no way. And so some of this, I do fault black people. I believe we've allowed this to happen. I believe we allowed them to come into our neighborhoods. I believe we've allowed them to dictate to us. And we kind of had a disagreement on the Kanye statement on slavery was a choice. But I think black people have laid down for too long. I think we've seen historically when white people want something, they will kill for it and they will die for it. And that's why I believe white people rule the world, because they're willing to
That's
make
partially the reason. I think that's partially the reason why they are successful. A lot of them lie and cheat and steal
all of that.
and
They
will
will do
kill
whatever it
you.
takes.
Yeah.
And so we saw that even on January 6th, they'll kill each other. Like the Civil War, it wasn't a bunch of black people that was mad. It was white people saying we want to keep our slaves and y'all trying to take them, so we will kill y'all.
Right.
And we're supposed to be on the same page. And I see black people willing to kill each other, and I'm not advocating murder. I'm not doing that. I don't want the viewers to think that. I don't want the police at my door. I don't want the FBI at my door, the DEA, whoever. But I think when you look at society and you look at culture, and even you look in like African countries, stuff gets done. You look at what happened, we talked about with Afghanistan. Like, when you want something bad enough, you'll fight for it. And I've joked and had some things to say about the LGBTQ community. They don't necessarily die for their cause, but they will make it super uncomfortable. And I feel like black people, we just won't do that. We're so content that once we get to a certain point, we'll take whatever they give us.
Right.
And we'll just be content. And then I thank God for the Colin Kaepernicks of the world. For me, I thank God for the Kanye Wests of the world that are willing to speak up and genuinely, I believe, fight for a cause. Versus other people that'll speak up when it's convenient or beneficial for them, and then they disappear.
Like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson.
Exactly. And so, man, if there was black people that put this white kid up to it, that like you said, I'll go with disappointing. I would probably use a harsher criticism. Tone deaf. It's not funny. It's not a joke. It's not cute. It's not cool. It's none of that. It's disgusting and disturbing, and it's grossly immature. And I just that would be very disappointing. And then on the flip side, as a white person, like, there's certain words you can't say. There's certain costumes you can't say.
Or shouldn't wear.
Or shouldn't wear. Yeah, my bad. But yeah, man, that's kind of the country we're in. It's a country that's divided. It's been divided. I would love for it to be unified, but the rich ain't going to give to the poor, and the whites ain't going to give power to the minorities. Definitely not the black
minority. This is true. And going back to what you said about black people being content. I think that a lot of it is we've lost our power within ourselves. And I think a lot of it is we've, I don't know, we just gotten so hungry to the point where we'll do anything or take anything. And my motto has always been, why get the crumb when you can have a whole pie? And I think that we need to start setting up our children. I think that's where it starts first. I think that once you set your children up and you make sure that they straight, I think that it will continue. You know, when white people, especially like in the UK and Europe and stuff, their money just doesn't turn one time. Their money
Right.
turns over and over and over and over again. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make sure that my money is turning over and over and over and over again. And I think that we're not teaching our kids, the importance of so many different things. And I think that's why we just get content and just roll over. Like you had mentioned before, we let a lot of stuff slide. As a culture, as a community, as a people, with a lot of, cultural appropriation and pretty much being the butt joke of, talking in the Ebonics, which they call African American vernacular usage, which I think is interesting, but that's another topic for another day. But making fun of us for talking with slang and how we dress and how we do our hair and the gold teeth and all and just all these negative stereotypes that you may say per se. But I just think that we just got to start young. We got to teach our kids, and once we instill our kids and educate ourselves, then we can learn to know what you want and be clear what you want and know how to get it. And you don't have to emulate. And a lot of it is we as black people, we emulate white people a lot. We emulate how they do stuff, how they run how they run their management, how they do all these different things, and then we try to be like them. No, we're not trying. We weren't put on this earth to be like them. We're unique. We're different. The mother Africa was the first on this planet. Everything comes from Africa, no matter what skin tone you are, what race, what culture, everything comes from Africa. Every music genre that is out today came from Mother Africa. You can't deny Mother Africa. She's too big. She's too huge. She can make any color. White folks can't make no color.
Fact.
So I think that once we learn our power and learn our morals and learn who we are as a people, I think that we won't settle. I refuse to settle. I refuse to settle on anything that is not beneficial towards me, my family, or my seeds that I plan to plant in the future. So I think that's a lot of it and a part of it. Let white folks do what they do. Let them do shock value. Let them do that. It does not work for us. I know that Lauren Fishburne, his daughter was trying to get into the porn industry because she saw Kim Kardashian make a whole lot of money. You not Kim Kardashian. Your daddy is the most respected man in Hollywood. No, why try to be like Kim Kardashian? You have connections already. Your dad is huge. If you wanted to become something, you could have became it. You didn't have to do that, and it didn't work in her favor.
No.
So I think that's partially what it is for me.
Yeah, I think education is important. And I'm not going to, for the sake of time, get into the critical race theory
Hmm.
conversation. But I think knowing your history is important. And we've worked really hard for our daughter to understand her history and understand that she's royalty and she is a princess and she will be a queen and she is valued and she's valuable and that you can't
Yes,
let the parameters of society box you in.
yes,
There's a game to be played, but and I know we've disagreed on Kim Kardashian, but you can play the game for a little bit, but eventually you got to start making your own rules. Like you
right, right,
get
right.
once you get put on game, then you need to go and do what you can with it. And I think Jay-Z's done a phenomenal job with it. And I'm not going to name a bunch of people because
Hmm.
there's a bunch of black people that have done great with taking their environment, learning a bunch of different things, and then excelling.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
I
Absolutely.
definitely, I definitely think it starts with um, education, but the next piece of education is knowing how it works. I watched a baby interview, and baby, the owner, I don't know what it is of Cash Money, but something
Mm.
as simple as he said his biggest regret was he didn't. I don't know if it was trademark or license bling bling,
Mm.
because they created that, and
Right.
the Bay has created a bunch of different things. Our culture creates so much, but then we
Mm-hmm.
let a white person go and monetize it. We let
Mm-hmm.
other cultures, like I said, Asian cultures come into our environments, take all our money and send it back to their culture so that
Mm-hmm.
we're creating generational wealth for every other culture except our own. But as
Exactly.
we are starting to understand financial literacies, we're starting to understand businesses, we're starting to understand loopholes, how
Mm-hmm.
if a car weighs over a certain amount, you can write it off. If you
Mm-hmm.
can run a drug empire, you can start your own business. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're getting there. We got a long way to go. Um,
I just hope that it don't
but
take another 400 years, because we ain't got another
right,
400 years to spare.
that's the thing. And once you start ascending, white people gonna try and stump that out. And what are
Right.
we gonna do? Are we gonna capitulate and
Crumble.
go back
Mm-hmm.
into our role? Or like we're seeing across the country, people saying, you can keep your money corporations. I'll start my own thing. Like, I don't need
Yeah.
y'all no more. Can we get to a
Exactly.
point as a people where we can stay together long enough to say, we don't need them? We can
Mm-hmm.
create our own stuff. We can create our own supply chains where we can have our
Mm-hmm.
own clothing, our own food, our own environments, our own culture. And then people got to come to us. Same thing we saw when all the TikTok people took their
Mm-hmm.
hiatus and TikTok
Mm-hmm.
died out. Like that
Mm-hmm.
showed that they have the power. And I wish, and I hate to put it on athletes, but when George Floyd died, it was great that the Bucks and everybody stopped playing for a game.
Mm-hmm.
What if they had stopped for the whole season?
Right.
What if when Kyrie Irving said, y'all not going to force these mandates? What if every
Right.
black NBA player said, you know what?
We gonna back
Y'all
you
got
up.
it. How long do you
Mm-hmm.
think those mandates would have lasted? Them white people
Not
losing all that
long.
money would have figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the part that the sacrifice that I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
white people, and I'm just going to use gay people, they would make that sacrifice for their cause. Them people at Netflix, whether they right or wrong, all them transgender people,
Right.
y'all don't want to take Dave down. We out. And
Right.
we're not
Right.
just gonna walk out and be quiet. We're gonna walk out and we're gonna be loud. But
Right. Right. Right.
instead, we got Stephen A. Smith, and I love Shannon Sharp, but other people like him bashing Kyrie, telling him how dumb he is, how ignorant he is, how stupid he is, undercutting what he's trying to do and say. And we had the same thing
Exactly.
with Kaepernick, and the same thing with Ali back in
Mm-hmm.
the day, the same thing with Martin
Mm-hmm.
Luther King back in the day. People celebrate Martin
Mm-hmm.
Luther King today, but they didn't used to do that back then.
They
They
sure
wanted
didn't.
Martin to shut up and dribble just like they wanted LeBron to shut up and dribble.
Right.
And so
Exactly. I
I,
agree.
I think we getting there, but it's really going to be the next generation and the generation after that that can really rise up and
Mm-hmm.
take a stand.
Mm-hmm.
We won't need, like you said, we won't need to defund the police. We will be the
Right.
police.
Right.
We won't need to
Exactly.
defund the police because we will be in positions to write and change the laws that don't need that. But
Exactly.
we got to
Exactly.
be consistent.
Right. I definitely agree on that. And a couple of things before we wrap up. Um, I'm not mad at Kim Kardashian. How she got her money is how she got her money. How she, I don't know if she's religious or not, but she has to deal with that at night. The fact that she started something and got famous off of it and made a bunch of money. As a woman, I think that it's phenomenal to see women entrepreneurs. I think it's um, phenomenal for women to use their sexuality to kind of get a certain status, because I feel like especially in, a, in the entertainment industry, you have to have some type of sex appeal. And I hate that I have to say that, but it's the truth.
It's the truth.
We do over sexualize women, but you got to have some sex appeal, because if you don't have sex appeal, you're not gonna make it. The thing that for Kim Kardashian is that you know how do you explain that to your kids? How do you explain that to your family and all of that kind of stuff? But I ain't mad at the girl. I think that she made her money. She played the game and she played it well, and she all bagged up. Kudos to her. I just don't. I wouldn't. I don't know how I would take that if my daughter did something like that. I just don't know how I would feel about that. But I mean, I ain't mad at her. Get your money. Uh, the other piece that you was talking about, as far as Kyrie Irving about Stephen A. Smith, I think that's like some cool type shit. Like, why are you degrading and reprimanding this man for a decision that he decided to make? This is America. Whether you like what people do here or not, people have the right to express how they feel and express, and exercise, you know, through activism, through social media, what they feeling, what they, how they feel and all that kind of stuff. So you're degrading another man based off how he feels. And everybody not is not gonna agree with how you feel, but at the end of the day, just learn to respect it and respect that boundary. And I don't think that it's cool for two black men to be degrading another black man because he feels a little bit more differently. And I think that if the black community had gotten on with with Irving, I think that, like you said, there wouldn't be no mandates. The mandates would have been taken off, but we sit there and we say yes, master, and we drink the Kool-Aid, and now they trying to make this mandate worldwide. But there's little loopholes, which I'll talk about, just a tad bit on the next episode. But there are certain loopholes that you can go through to not have to take the shot if you don't want to. But just that's his opinion. That's how he feel, and if that's how he feels, others feel the same. There's other people out there in the world that feel the same exact way. They just probably weren't brave enough to actually do it and say it. And Kyrie is actually saying it and doing it. And Kaepernick too. Shout out to Kaepernick. If we had of not watched NBA or the NFL for a whole entire year, things would change. Money talks. You gotta,
Sure do.
and we spend a lot of money on stuff. And that's the reason why we sit there and we drink the Kool-Aid. That demonstration that he did, and for our community to not have backed him the way that he did, that was really a slap in the face. That really was. Because that
Yeah.
should have been way bigger. If that had been in the 50s and 60s, oh my God,
Yeah.
it would have been crazy
Um,
bigger.
so yeah, to finish up on that, shout out to Cap. I believe by the time this airs, he will have his documentary would have came out on Netflix. So please go and support.
Yes.
Shout out to Netflix for
And
standing
it's
behind
directed
Dave
by
Chappelle.
Ava DuVernay,
Yeah,
correct?
Ava DuVernay directed it. So I plan to watch that this weekend. And we can probably, if we all get a chance, we can all talk about it. I think it'll be
Yeah,
dope.
yeah.
But yeah, I 100% agree with you. I appreciate you. Shout out to QMC, the Queen Media Collective, for giving us
Yes.
this
Our
platform, giving us
queen.
this opportunity. Our queens is
Yes.
doing their thing. The numbers is
Yes. Check
starting to
them
run
out.
up. For us on the King's Corner, please continue to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube.
Yes.
We're on Anchor, all
Yes.
streaming platforms for the
Spotify, all of that.
podcast,
Yeah.
all that. Shout out
Yeah.
to
And
you, my brother, for the
thank
editing,
you.
the audio, man. You next level with it, bro. You're
I,
one of a
I
kind.
tried. I tried, and
You
going
no,
back
you
to
don't
what you
try. You
said.
do. You get it done, my man.
Yeah, you're right.
You get it
You're
done.
right. But going back to what you're saying, we have to change the narrative. If we don't change the narrative, nobody else will. Now, I can pay somebody to edit, but will it be my vision, or will it? They can't think how I think. When I see or hear a piece of the podcast, I'd be like, okay, I want that right there. I, I could pay somebody to edit, and it'd be a lot more easier, but it's not my vision. It's not, or what I think of the vision of how the show should sound and what it be. I'm trying to produce good, positive content for our age group, and I want it to be where it's cool enough for them to have conversations on their own, just like how we have a conversation
But
about
I
certain
think
things that's going on in the world.
but it's even bigger than that, my man. You're gaining a skill. You're gaining a trade that you can teach other young men, young women of color how to do it,
Hmm.
so they don't gotta go. It's
That's
not just
true.
that we don't want to have to pay somebody to edit.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
only do we not have to pay somebody to edit, you can eventually start getting paid to edit other people's stuff, and then you
yeah.
can
That's true.
get paid to train people how to edit, and then they can get paid to edit people's stuff, and then they can get
That's
paid to
true.
train people's stuff. And so now you can create a whole industry because
That's
rather
true.
than you paying, you took the time to figure it out.
Yeah,
And I'm doing the same on really the video side, and even the stuff I'm
yeah,
doing on the Bond Chronicles, and trying to
yeah.
understand Instagram algorithms and
Uh
understanding
huh.
reels and understanding
Uh huh.
Canva. Because for a long time I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put this thing together. I'm going to put it out. I'm like, no, I need to figure it out. And I sat in here for
Hmm.
hours the other night trying to get a 30-second clip together, bro.
Hmm.
But it's necessary. Now that I got it, I got the foundation, I got the framework. Now I'm
Hmm.
good. I'm good. And now
Right,
I
right,
got
right.
something that I can use with us. I got something I can use
Yeah,
with my other podcast. I got something that
yeah.
when other people because when they see our podcast, I don't know about you, I've had a bunch of people come up and say, yeah, man, I wanted to get into that, but I don't know where to start. Yeah, man, I wanted to get into that, but I don't really know how
Mm.
to do it. And now that I've been doing it really less than a year, but I got quite a few shows under my belt, I'm now a
Right,
go-to person for people
right, right,
who have great stories and great voices that the world needs to hear.
right.
So shout out
Absolutely.
to you, my man. Shout out to
Shout out to
QNC.
you. Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you for the
sir.
video, because man,
Yes, sir.
that's not my forte.
And but that's the thing. When you're a community, when you look
Yeah,
out for each other, you're better.
that's
Um,
true.
So, for our audience, again, thank you so much for staying with us. I know we went long, but I hope it was enjoyable. Please leave something in the comments for us. Give us
Yes,
some
sir.
likes, give us some shares on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We all
Yes,
over. We love
yes.
y'all. We appreciate
Worldwide.
y'all. And until the next time, we out.
Oh, and we forgot to shout out our 1/3
Israel.
of our king,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Mister
yeah. My bad.
Ishel.
Oh man, my
It's
bad.
OG.
Dwight,
No, it's all
Dwight,
good.
Dwight.
Dwight, yeah,
Yeah,
holding it down.
he getting to the bag, so he couldn't be with us. But
Yeah, but
he's
OG been
really the
holding it down.
orchestrator of it all.
Yeah,
He's the man.
he's like the promotion piece of it.
Yeah,
Like he puts it on the website. He shares it on social
yeah.
media.
And
So
so
he's
he
like the
got
promotion.
that's the side I don't know how to do, but he know how to do.
Yeah, he got the promotion piece. You got the video piece, and I got the audio piece. So we all bring something to the table. If we all can bring something to the table, having one person or having three people is better than having one. It's
Absolutely.
not just me promoting and producing and hosting, because that's what I do with my show, and that's a lot of work. So to have
I know.
all three of that combined for one show, if we did that in real life, only imagine how things would be.
Yeah, for sure. That's all we got, y'all. Appreciate y'all. Be easy.
Till next time.